Good morning, everyone. This is Jeffrey Kennedy, also writing as Jennifer K. Lambert, author of epic fantasy romance. I'm here with my first cup of coffee. Ah, that's so good. Today is Tuesday, June 24th, 2025. And this is literally my first cup today. I had trouble waking up this morning. I was sleepy. Oh, no, what? I hit tired last night too. Been working hard on this revision. Maybe that's why. Uh, I am on target. I've been figuring about 42 pages a day, which was partly people often ask me about how to track editing, revising, how to I don't know, predict, because there's a lot of conversation about word count and how many words can you write an hour and how many words can you write a day, a week, a month, etc. But we don't always have very good metrics for editing and revising, I feel like. So for me, because of course I keep my spreadsheets and I track everything, uh, I have a lot of data from many different projects where I know basically my rate of revision. And some of it will depend on what level of pass it is and how extensive the revision is. If if I'm just doing a polish pass, if I'm just going to make sure that I didn't miss any typos or details or that kind of thing, I can do as many as 80 pages a day. 78, 79 is really what it comes out to. But that is over 3 1 hour sprints. I still do my 3 1 hour sprints for editing or revising. That seems to be like what I can do working wise with breaks between. My nose is running a little bit this morning. Um, so, that works out to like 25 pages in an hour, which is, probably a little bit slower than I don't know how fast I read actually, if I'm just reading. Would be good to know. Anyway, uh, and these are always averages too, because some sections, like I'll get through 7 pages in one day, and other times I'll get through like 100 pages in one day. So a lot depends on how much work there is to do, which I know is one of those dependent conversations that, yeah, I'm probably not articulate today. I must be. I think I've got a little bit of brain fog here. Yesterday was difficult. I still got through. I made nice progress. Let's see here. Um, I am up to page 158 out of 411. And sorry, trying to kickstart my brain. I'm looking at these numbers and they mean nothing to me. Nothing. I got through 46 pages yesterday. But it was still pretty intensive. I made a major change. I decided to change something between the characters that I think will work better this way. And I'm trying to think of how to describe it, or if I can. Um, I had changed it from, I think I can talk about this. The heroine um, had believed that the hero was genuinely attracted to her and that he had no agenda, no other motivation. And this is how it was. And then when she discovers that he does have this ulterior motive, she feels very betrayed. And I took that out. I changed that up for reasons. Um, Partly because I'm still trying to think how much I can tell you. Uh, yeah, it was just a little too shitty of him, I guess. And also, it was a little bit oblivious of her. She's not that person. So, what this involves is just like it's not a rewriting of a scene. I'd had this scene where they were fighting, and when she discovers this and is very upset, and there's plenty of other stuff to be upset about. So I just sort of had to like pull out those particular details. And I had already made that decision. So I'd laid it in earlier that she knew what his agenda was. And she was still like, okay, well, whatever. No reason we can't have a good time in bed, right? Um, yeah. So that's an example of the kind of revising that I'm doing. And I think that just took a lot of thought yesterday, balancing out their motivations and why, what they're trying to do. Um, yeah, so who knows? Who knows why yesterday was, but by the evening I hit tired. So, but it is, I think this revision is going well. Like I said, I've made good progress. So where I'm at right now, I'm about 37% through the book. Um, and we're going to have a check-in meeting on Thursday. So I am anticipating that, well, I'll probably be at least halfway through. And I'm also tracking what the kind of the outline-ish thing for them because they wanted to see where the beats are. And for those of you who have listened to me whining about like, oh, I have more work to do and this is hard and all of that, uh, one of my friends who read this and was, I don't know, gave me some feedback on stuff, was marveling at how great it is to have an editor this devoted to the book, which is absolutely true because these days, very often it seems like some editors just don't even read the book because they're just so overworked and I don't know, tired. So not only having read it, editor Alley having read it once to for that first revision, but reading it again, and there will be more. So that is one thing that they say about if you get involved in publishing, that you have to love, love, love books because you will end up reading the same book. I don't know, 4 or 5, 10 times. So it's interesting to get back into the texture of this book. And yeah, I think that the revisions are going to make a really interesting difference. And I'm trying to think of, did I start down any other roads? I was talking about editing and revising and how you go about it. I think, like all things, it comes down to process, how you conceptualize the story. For me, I revise like I write, beginning to end. Unless it's a later stage, like line edits or copy edits, where I'll bounce through track changes. Um, and occasionally, I'll even still do a read through from beginning to end on those. It depends on if I'm concerned about whether or not it's hanging together. By the time we get to minor strikeouts and comments on that sort of thing, I'll usually just bounce through track changes and give it one more read at some point for just continuity. It's amazing the continuity things you can lose along the way. Uh, my clock is not going, but I think it's an illusion. Yeah, it was. I don't know why Zencaster's being so weird this day. these days. Is it Zencastr? Is it Chrome? Ah, all right. So anyway, one thing that struck me because it's always stuck with me, I guess. Susan Elizabeth Phillips has a very meticulous method for revision, but she's also like a one book a year writer. But she goes through and edits for or revises for a particular element. She does a pass for each character arc. She does a pass for each, like plot line and that sort of thing. It doesn't split out that way for me. That's why I kind of go beginning to end, but in the same way that I draft, I have this feeling like I want to hold the whole story in my head. And so as I revise, I'm accumulating it in my head. That's probably why I'm feeling brain foggy, because I'm like really trying to have this whole thing and make sure that the interweaving of the threads is working correctly. So, um, yeah, I don't know if I have anything more to say about it than that. It's it's meticulous work revising, and we talk about a lot that most writers tend to fall into the either the I love drafting camp or I love revising camp. And I used to hate revising. I used to, especially when I was a newbie writer, regard revising as fixing everything I got wrong the first time. Which now I look back on that and I'm like, wow, that was a lot of hubris. But I still love drafting best. But there is a what is the word I want? I want to say like relaxation. There is a It's almost therapeutic revising, because maybe that's sort of why I've changed my mind on this, because um, it's not fixing what I got wrong the first time. I think I've learned that. It's instead having the opportunity to polish, to layer things in. I don't know why I used to have that idea that it had to be perfect the first time. I probably related to some sort of latent perfectionism. And yes, I do have perfectionism in my blood. It's a part of my family, and my aunt warned me about it very, very early when I was having a hard time finishing my thesis. She wanted to know if I was paralyzed by perfectionism and told me how much that had affected her life and how I needed to ditch that early. And so now I feel like I have embraced the imperfect. I have embraced the beauty of iteration, that with each iteration you get something, I don't want to say new, but deeper, richer, fuller. So yeah, that's where I'm at on this. Uh, I saw a really cool opportunity for I'm trying to think. Oh, Flame Tree. Flame Tree Press is doing an anthology of romantasy. They're doing two. One on the theme of time, and which I think is a kind of an odd choice, but their call. But I feel like there's not really that much romantasy themed around time. But if you have something themed around time, go for it. Uh, the other one is dragons, of which there's obviously tons. Short stories, 2 to 4,000 words. And if I finish, if I finish this revision in time, I started to say that earlier, didn't I? That in some ways I came up with my 42 pages a day because my friend Kelly Robson is coming to stay here. She's arriving on July 2nd, evening of July 2nd, and I would love to have this revision done um, by July 2nd. So I looked up my working days, not counting weekends, and came up with 42 pages a day, which is well within my usual uh, this stage revision ability. I should come up with names for the various stages of revision, right? That would be kind of amusing. So far I am averaging, let's see. Oh, we need to move it over here. Bear with me. I'm having to change the parameters of my formula, which is not wanting to cooperate. Okay, let's see here. Sometimes mouse work is hard. Hard. 49. 49 pages a day. So I am a little bit ahead of schedule, and which is great. Better that than the reverse. Yeah, and so this revision is actually going more smoothly than I had thought. Although, when we were on the editorial call last week, I said I thought this would take me 2 weeks to do, and it's going to be pretty much like 11 working days. Yeah, it's going to be like 11 working days. So sometimes I impress myself at how good I am at estimating things. And a friend of mine who is very, very good for my ego, by the way, commented that, of course I am, because I have this professional expertise at this point where I've really honed intuition and that I just know these things because I have so much experience. And I thought, oh, that's kind of cool to um, pat myself on the back, or he patted me on the back for it. So let's see what else is going on. We're supposed to get rain today. That's very exciting for us. Which is, if only the rain could put out the fire in the world. But there we are. uh, yeah, we won't talk about how awful our government is today in the U.S. and other governments around the world. These boys wanting power, right? So, well, there I talked about it a little bit. Um, yeah, I had a great weekend. I spent a lot of time in the garden. I got the secret garden all cleaned up. The grape arbor is, boy, I feel like we're doing a lot of catching up on deferred maintenance, which is great. We're in a better financial position. Uh, Building the casita has really spurred me to kind of get things fixed up. I guess because it's so clean and pretty, and now like the rest of the house, I'm like, oh. But the grape arbor, where I used to do this podcast from a lot, long-time listeners will recall, I don't anymore just because I kept having so much connectivity issue out there. But the pergola upon which the grapevines entwine, oops, sorry, gesturing into the wind chimes. I feel like that's going to be in the future when people look back fondly on this podcast. Who knows? That will be like a drinking game, a feature. How many times did I accidentally gesticulate into the wind chimes? Anyway, the pergola has got wood rot, and we're going to have to fix it because it's going to fall down. I mean, it's at that point. And we had a handyman here yesterday looking at some of our kitchen cabinets, which are bad. I mean, we think of this as a new house, but it's a 30-year-old house, or 32-year-old house, 31. Um, and so there are just things, like the cabinet hinges are breaking and they drive me crazy. And so it's like, okay, we're going to replace the cabinet hinges on the kitchen drawers because the runners aren't working right. And we're going to fix the pergola so that it doesn't fall down. And it's all good things, right? All good things. All right. I'm going to get to work. I hope that you all are able to get some things done. We were having this conversation yesterday in one of my author groups that someone was criticizing her for like not being more upset about the U.S. bombed Iran. Right? That's what's happening for those living under a rock or in the future. To give you historical context for what's going on right now, yeah, Trump bypassed Congress, did not declare war, decided to go ahead and bomb Iran. um, Iran, I should say. And so, yeah, this author friend of mine, one of her readers, supporters, was criticizing her for not talking more about this. And, the thing is we're doing all we can. It's like a lot of us are along for the ride in this cart that is on fire. And, we tried to not elect this guy, and we're doing what we can to resist and supporting those organizations protecting civil rights. And I mean, the U.S. Congress couldn't stop Trump from bombing Iran. I don't know what us writers are supposed to do. So anyway, my philosophy: control what you can. Try to make your corner of the world as good as it can be, and you know, resist where possible. And yeah, that's where we're at. So I hope you all have a good week, as good as it can be. And I will talk to you all on Friday, okay? You all take care. Bye bye.